The LA Chargers had a huge bounce back season in the 2024 calendar year. They went from the number 5 overall pick to the wild card round, and they got phenomenal play from their first 2 draft picks in Ladd McConkey and Joe Alt. It helped having Justin Herbert healthy for a full season, but Jim Harbaugh has come in and done a phenomenal job of resetting the culture in Los Angeles. And this is a team that looks like they're going to be competitive for a long time in the AFC. But they did come up short in the wild card round. So what moves can the Chargers make to get over that hump, maybe win the AFC West, and contend for a Super Bowl? That's what we're going to be doing today, as we are doing a 7-round Los Angeles Chargers mock draft. This is one I've been looking forward to. They've made some great moves in free agency, picking up Mekhi Becton, picking up Najee Harris. But where do they go from here? That's what we're going to be talking about. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page, which I will leave links down in the description below. It's just $5 a month, and you guys will get full access to my in-depth draft guide and big board with over 500 different prospects, scouting reports. You can see all of the combine and pro day numbers, player stats, and so much more. Be sure to go check that out. Like I said, it's an easy way to support the channel, and that will be linked down in the description below. But I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's go ahead and kick this off with the LA Chargers. Here at pick 22, a really intriguing trade offer came across. Buffalo wanted to move into position to presumably come up and get Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan, but I'm not going to be making that move. The board fell in a perfect spot, and we are going to end up going with Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle from Michigan. Take aside the connection he has to Harbaugh, he's a perfect fit for what this team needs. They lost Poona Ford in free agency, who was a really important piece for the interior of this defensive line, and I really like what Kenneth Grant can do up front. He is an absolute monster on the interior. 6'3", 342 pounds. He's still just 21 years old. And he is a really powerful rusher. Plays low to the line of scrimmage, gets into the backfield, has been a phenomenal run stuffer over the past couple of seasons. 22 run stops, a 5.9% missed tackle percentage this past year. He knows how to tackle, how to wrap up in the backfield, and has been a consistent contributor in the run game. But I don't think he is just a nose tackle run defender, because this is a guy that I think can get after the quarterback. He had 27 pressures, a 9.4% pass rush win rate, and while I do expect him to play nose tackle at the next level, I think he does give you a little bit of juice to potentially get after the quarterback, which is a big contributing factor for him. He's got the size they're looking for, he fits a massive need, and he's one of the best prospects in this draft class. I still think he's young. I think this is the perfect player for the Chargers to go out and get. Harbaugh wants to win through the trenches. We saw it with Joe Alt last year, and I think Kenneth Grant is just another extension of that. He would be an awesome fit here in LA. I'm going to take him here at pick 22. So pick 45 came around, and a player that I have my eye on for the Chargers is still on the board. We don't do this often in this series, but I'm going to call the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to trade up to go get my guy. I'm going to give him pick 55, pick 125, and a future third-round pick to move up 10 spots and get pick 151. Very similar to the deal that the Rams made last year to trade up to get Braden Fisk. I'm going to be making that move here to move up 10 spots and go get our guy. And here we are at pick 45, and that player that I had my eye on is Iowa State wide receiver Jaden Higgins. If you look at the depth chart, the Chargers wide receiver room, it's not very deep. You lost Josh Palmer. I know they were able to bring back Mike Williams, but Chargers fans know this better than anybody. You're asking a lot if you expect Mike Williams to stay healthy for the entire season. It just doesn't happen. Quentin Johnston's been incredibly up and down throughout his career, and while Ladd McConkey was a massive draft hit, I still think you need that boundary possession receiver that I just don't think that this team has right now. And Jaden Higgins from Iowa State is a perfect fit. I think he has that old school mentality for one thing that I think Harbaugh is just absolutely going to love. He's a hard-nosed football player and a very hard worker. Started his collegiate career at Eastern Kentucky, went to Iowa State in 2023, and has been phenomenal for the Cyclones over the past couple of seasons. Over 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns this past season. He reminds me a ton of Drake London. 56% on contested catches. He had 14 contested catches this past season. 13.6 yards per reception this past year. He's really good. 6'3", 217 pounds, long arms of almost 80-inch wingspan for Jaden Higgins. And this is a guy that can go up, get the 50-50 balls. He's a really sharp route runner in that short to intermediate game. And I think he can win deep. Ran a 4.47 at the combine. I think he knows how to win with his size. That's going to be a big selling point with him at the next level. He's a really good receiver. Only one drop in 2023, 2 drops in 2024. He catches everything that's thrown his way, and I feel like he's going to end up going in the top 50. I didn't want to risk him being off the board at 55, and I think he is worthy of moving up in this class and going to get him. So I'm going to take Jaden Higgins here at 45, and he is going to be my boundary possession type of receiver that this team has just been lacking for quite some time. Here at pick 86, Terrence Ferguson was the player that I had my eye on, and he just went about 5 picks earlier, but I still think we're in a great position to take a tight end. This team's depth chart at the tight end position, it's not good. I'll say that much. And they need a guy that can be a reliable target across the middle of the field, can give you a little bit as a blocker. And I think Harold Fannin Jr. is that guy. I think people are going to overreact to the combine. He ran a 4.71 with a 1.56 split. It's not an amazing time. I won't sit up here and say he had a phenomenal combine. But if you watch the tape, I didn't expect him to blow the numbers out of the water and be this super explosive guy because that's not who he is on tape. But he is coming off the most productive tight end season in the history of college football. 117 receptions, 1,555 yards, 10 touchdowns, 13 yards per carry, only 4 drops, 54.5% contested catch rate. This guy knows how to get open. He's a phenomenal route runner, and this is a guy that builds up speed as he goes. He's not super explosive, but he is fast in the open field, especially after the catch. He has a really good job of breaking tackles, making plays happen, and he's one of my favorite players in the entire draft class. I've loved him since the summer, and I haven't backed away from that. He is a good blocker in space. I don't think he's ever going to be that inline blocker, which could be a bit of a deterrent, but I love what he brings to the table as a receiver. In space as a blocker, I think he can be really a contributor, and I think he might need to add on a little bit weight. That's the one area you'd like to see him get better at. He's 238 pounds, not the biggest guy in the world, but I love what he can do as a receiving option for this team, and I'm going to take him here at pick 86. On the clock here at 151, I'm going to go back to the trenches because I think this team is still looking to improve the interior. You brought in Mekhi Becton. I think a lot of Chargers fans are really excited about that, rightfully so. You still have to take into account the injury history of Mekhi Becton because he just hasn't been able to stay healthy consistently throughout his career. That is a concern, and you don't have a lot of depth on the interior. Zion Johnson just didn't have a phenomenal year. I think you need depth, and the guards are flying off the board right now. So I have to take one here at 151, and I love Luke Kandra out of Cincinnati. To me, one of the most slept-on players in the entire draft class. 6'4", 323 pounds, 10-inch hands. He meets all of the size criteria that you look for in the guard position. But I just love the way that he moves. I think he's a solid athlete. I think he has some good traits in pass protection. Plays low to the ground, has good upper body strength, has good hands to counter pass rushers, and I think he has the ability to clear lanes in the run game. He is a people mover. This is a guy that just knows how to move people, understands leverage, and I love that about his game. I do think he's a solid athlete. He can be a little heavy on his feet at times, and he's not the quickest guy or most explosive. I'm ultimately not too worried about it, but as a run blocker, he's going to have to improve. Took a lot of bad angles, struggled to consistently get up to the second level. He's a really solid player, though, and I think he's going to be in this consideration for this team. We pick again at 158. There's a few players that I've got my eye on there, but I think you got to go guard with the way the board has fallen and the way they're just flying off the board. I think it's a need for them in the first 5 picks of this draft. I'm going to go with Luke Kandra at 151. Here at pick 158, Despite going out and getting Najee Harris, I still think running back is in the cards for this Chargers team. They have Kamani Vidal, who I do like. I liked him a lot as a prospect, but I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. A bit of an undersized back, and that's not really the type of back that it seems like they really want. They want more of that power back, and I like the developmental upside of a Trevor Etienne. Still 20 years old, one of the youngest players in this draft class, had a pretty solid combine, ran a 4.42. I like some of the stuff that he shows. Incredibly quick, shifty out of the backfield, great lateral quickness, really good footwork. I think he's a very patient runner, good vision, knows how to hit the holes, and his top end speed is phenomenal. He also gives you a little bit out of the backfield as a receiver. We didn't see it too much this past season, just 32 receptions, but at Florida the year prior, I thought he showed some good traits there. I do think he's going to have to work on contact balance. That's the area of his game that I really worried about with him. Just 3.43 yards after contact per attempt. Not a great number, but as a number 2 back, I think he could be a really special type of player. A nice change of pace from Najee Harris, who is more that power back. Trevor Etienne can take it to the house anytime he touches the ball. Reminds me a lot of Chase Brown from the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of play style, the way they move, the way they can catch the ball out of the backfield. And Chase Brown was picked, I believe, in the 4th or 5th round and has turned himself into a very reliable starting back. I like what Etienne does. I think he does need to work on making guys miss and breaking tackles, but here at 158, I think the value is really good. You only got Najee on a 1-year deal, so I got to take a running back, and I think Etienne makes a ton of sense here at 158. Here at pick 181, I'm going to go with a corner for the Chargers. I like some of the corners that they drafted last year in Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still. Both of them had really solid rookie seasons, but you need some more depth. Asante Samuel Jr. is still sitting in free agency at the time of recording this, and you lost Christian Fulton. They brought in Benjamin St-Juste, which I guess is fine. It really depends on how you utilize him, but he's been very inconsistent for Washington. So I'm going to go with a corner here. Mello Dotson, I think, is a little bit undervalued here. They got him at 196. And look, I get it. He didn't have the greatest combine in the world, ran a 4.59. It's not amazing, but this is a guy that, yeah, I thought he had a pretty solid game at Kansas. Great ball skills. I mean, him and Kobe Bryant, just the ability to make plays happen, pick the ball off, and I thought it was phenomenal. His route recognition and his ability to stick with receivers is some of the best in the entire draft class. Incredibly fluid hips, is a willing run defender. He closes to the football really quickly, and he can play in any sort of coverage scheme you want. Man, zone, he has it all. He's not a great tackler and is a pretty average athlete. But here at 181, if you're getting an established corner that has been very productive on a good defense for the last few seasons, yeah, I think he's worth the bet. Maybe he is just a depth corner, but I think Mello Dotson can be a little bit better than that. I think he's a solid player. I've got a 4th to a 5th round grade on him, even after the combine. Here at 181, I think it's just ridiculous value, and I got to pick him up. He's going to be my pick here at 181. On the clock here at 199, and I'm super excited because I get to take a player for the first time in the series that I've been waiting to talk about, and that is Kitan Crawford out of Nevada. I absolutely love his game. This is a guy that had a phenomenal draft combine. 4.4 140, 41.5-inch vert, 6.81 on the 3-cone, a 4.03 on the 20-yard shuttle. This dude is an explosive athlete that I think is one of the best sleepers in day 3 in this class. Played 4 seasons at Texas. Transferred to Nevada in 2024 where he had a pretty solid season. He's just a really good athlete in space. Fluid hips, great speed, movement abilities all check out. But I also love what he does in coverage. Think he's very disciplined, didn't bite, reads the quarterback's eyes well, and he has the quickness to come downhill and close. The speed is great. The flashes of ball skills are awesome. And he's got pretty long arms for the position as well. 31 inches, solid length. The production, the missed tackles can be a bit of a concern at times. And you'd like to see him be a little bit more aggressive as a run defender. But with his coverage instincts and his athleticism, I think you could play him at both strong or free safety. Move him around. You know you've got that versatile piece in Derwin James. Keaton Crawford, I think, brings you a little bit of that versatility as well, where you can move him all over the formation. He's 5'11", 204 pounds. I love his game. I think he's going to be a solid player in the NFL. And at 199, I think he's a really solid contributor to this team. So he's going to be my pick here for the Chargers. Here at pick 209, I'm going to go get another edge rusher. There's a lot of different ways that this team could go, I think. But I think going to get another pass rusher is pretty important for them. This is just not, outside of the first 2 or 3 rounds, I don't want to take an edge super high. And I thought there were more pressing needs. You got Khalil Mack locked up, I believe it was a 2-year deal. Correct me if I'm wrong on that in the comments. And you got Tuli Tuipulotu, who I think's been really good in the opportunities he's been given. I still think you go out and you go look to add another depth piece here. And the board fell in a really interesting way. Kyman Rucker from North Carolina, one of my favorites. Fadil Diggs out of Syracuse, who had a really good pro day, really strong combine. They're both in consideration here. Colin Oliver, depends on how you view his skill set. I really like RJ Oben out of Notre Dame, and I think he's ultimately going to be my pick here. There's a lot to really like about what he brings to the table. Now, we didn't have the most productive season this past year for Notre Dame. Had only 15 tackles, had 10 pressures, 1 sack on the year. I believe he was injured and was in and out of the lineup, but go back to his previous season at Duke. He was a top 10 edge rusher coming into the season for me because I think the size is phenomenal. This is a guy that is listed at 6'3", 255 pounds, and I think he's got the perfect size to play this edge rusher position. Quick first step off the line of scrimmage, has good length, and his pass rush moves are absolutely lethal. He has one play against Clemson when he was at Duke where he sets up the left tackle, I believe it's Tristan Lee. He long arms him and then turns it into a spin, and Tristan Lee is completely lost on the play. That's the type of player you're getting in RJ Oben. He is a guy that is very smart. He knows how to win with his hands. I think he has some really good bend to him as well. He does need to work on his power and balance. Not a great run defender at this point. And he is a bit of an older draft prospect right now. But in the 6th round as a dart throw, yeah, I think he's going to be a contributing edge rusher in the NFL. I think it's going to be hard for him not to make the 55-man roster. And I'm a huge fan of him. One of my guys in the class. I'm going to take RJ Oben here at 209. Here at pick 214, I think we're going to go back to the defensive line. We obviously got Kenneth Grant in the 1st round, and then we just picked up RJ Oben here at 209. I'm going to go get another interior defensive lineman just to continue to add some beef in the trenches. Tim Smith from Alabama just feels like another guy that Harbaugh would absolutely love. 6'4", 311 pounds, really good measurables, 81.5-inch wingspan, 10.5-inch hands. He is an older prospect. He's not the greatest athlete in the world, but he is strong. This is one of the strongest players on the defensive line. Great body control. It just seemed like he never was off balance, seemed to ever lose a rep. He's got potential as a run defender, as a pass rusher, one of the strongest bull rushes in the class. He's just not an awesome athlete. He's not a great run defender. He's a little bit older. He's not going to be one of these flashy guys that's going to get 25 pressures. He's not Kenneth Grant. But as a backup rotational defensive lineman, I think Tim Smith can be a contributor in the NFL. I don't think his ceiling is particularly high, but I definitely think his floor is a lot higher than some of these other guys on the board. He is a grown man out there, and I think he's perfect for the Chargers. I'm going to take Tim Smith at 214. With our final pick at 256, I'm going to take a shot on one of these quarterbacks. Brady Cook, Max Brosmer. Either one of them I think are worth taking in the 7th round. You need some depth behind Justin Herbert. It's kind of been proven. I believe they brought back Taylor Heineke. They have struggled when Herbert has gone down. They just don't have backups that make a lot of sense. I think getting one of these guys in the room to develop is worth a shot. I'm going to ultimately go with Max Brosmer. I've got him as my number 12 quarterback in the class. He's got a lightning quick release. He doesn't have the greatest arm in the world, but he's been pretty productive. Started his career at Rhode Island, went to Minnesota this past year, had some good numbers for the Golden Gophers. 66% completion, 77.7 adjusted completion percentage. His numbers aren't going to wow you by any means. He does a lot of things just straight across the board, but lightning quick release, overall really good athlete. I think can escape the pocket. I'm going to take a shot on him here at 256, the second to last pick in the draft, and he's going to be our backup behind Justin Herbert. So there we have it, Chargers fans. My 7th-round Los Angeles Chargers mock draft improved the trenches. Got Kenneth Grant, Tim Smith, RJ Oben, Luke Kandra, just to beef up the interior of both the offensive and defensive line. Added some weapons in Jaden Higgins, Harold Fannin, Trevor Etienne. Added some secondary help with Mello Dotson and Kitten Crawford, and then took a shot on Max Brosmer with our last pick. Maybe he turns into a potential good asset similar to Joe Milton, and he can get something for him in the future. But would love to hear from you guys down in the comment section. Do you like this mock? Do you hate it? Would love to hear from you. Leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.